Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, I'm Alex from Zelrix and you're watching Casual Discussion, the show where we talk and try to have fun. It was a blast working and producing my first solo fusion video between Iron Man and Omni-Man from Invicible. And if you don't know what the hell I'm talking about, just go watch this video right here. You can also subscribe and activate the bell to be notified whenever I post a new video. I'm waiting! But that got me thinking about Invincible, its premise, its writing, its character development, and everything that makes Invincible, invincible. I truly believe this show to be the greatest superhero cartoon ever produced. So, to support my saying, here are the 5 greatest strengths of Invincible. Little disclaimer section before we start. I'm gonna spoil like my life depends on it, season 1 of Invincible. So if you're not caught up, don't come and complain that I didn't warn you because, spoiler alert, I did. Then, before being a cartoon, Invincible is a comic book written by Robert Kirkman. Comic book that I haven't read yet, but don't worry, it's on my to-read pile and I will eventually get to it. When my to-read pile will be a little bit lighter than I am, I need to stop buying comic books. I have a problem, guys. Also, this might be the right time to try final warning. This video will contain a lot of clips from the show. Invincible being an extremely violently graphic cartoon, I need to warn you. If you're under 16, I would recommend not watching this video. But once again, do whatever you want. Who am I, your mom? If you need a little refresher about this license, Invincible tells the story of 17-year-old comic book lover high schooler Mark Greyson. His mom is a regular human while his dad is an alien, a Viltrumite from the planet Viltrum. Nolan Greyson, his dad, is a very powerful superhero. Unfortunately, Mark doesn't seem to possess power. That's until episode 1 where his power finally awakens. Mark can now fly, he's super fast, super strong, super durable, nearly invulnerable. I did say nearly. So using his newly found powers, Mark will decide to protect the planet, joining the numerous already superheroes roaming it. All that to the displeasure of his father, Omni-Man, who is far less lawful good than what appears, but we'll get to that. Also, there's a subplot about a robot in love with a 23-year-old adult trapped in a little girl's body. The story. You know it as much as I do, a story is mainly supported by one lead character, the protagonist, in this case, Mark Greyson. Teenage superheroes, nowadays, they exist 13 at the dozen. Between the Young Avengers, the Young Outsiders, the Teen Titans, and the oh so numerous Spider-Man roaming the multiverse, we cannot say this is a very original protagonist. But Mark himself, he has a bit of how so welcome nuance to him. Generally, in what we call the hero's journey, we have what we call the call to action. The call to action will start the adventure of your protagonist, and generally, it falls on them while they're not expecting it. But Mark, he cannot wait for this call, he cannot wait to get powers, and one day while taking out the trash...
It's about time.
Just like it's about time for you guys to subscribe to this channel, you can also activate the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out and leave a comment. What are you waiting for? In terms of characterization, Mark is written like a superhero who we can look up to. A hyper-powerful being, nearly a god among humans. Strategy favorized in DC Comics, with characters like Superman, Wonder Woman, or Martian Manhunter. But Mark himself, in his characterization, he is much more grounded. He acts like a mildly powerful being, using his not so powerful superpowers to create a better world for his surrounding. He is written to be relatable, strategy favorized in Marvel. Invincible is basically what would have happened if Peter Parker was bitten by a radioactive Kryptonian. Nom 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 nom. The result is a super powerful character we can look up to, but who we see fail, get back up, and learn from these failures. Thus, we have the feeling of growing with him as the story progresses. Mark wants to become a hero, yes, to help people, but a little bit by narcissity and by borderline worshipment for other heroes. Through the episodes, he will learn to set aside this desire to feel powerful and use his power to help people rather than to impress them. A very noble and interesting quest from a writing standpoint, if you ask me. Yes, it's a simple character arc, but simple doesn't mean bad, it just means simple. Plus, this development is far better handled than a lot of popular fiction nowadays. Ain't that right, Anakin? The side characters. A protagonist will never be able to carry a story on their own, at least not a good one. And Invincible is touched by what I call the Harry Potter syndrome, where the side characters are more interesting than the main one. Heroes and villains, even civilians, each named character is very well developed and characterized. Yes, every single one of them, even Amber. Don't get me wrong, I hate Amber. She's a total but you cannot say she's not coherent in this optic.
Come on, this is dumb.
No, what's dumb is how long I've been putting up with your bullshit.
This is why I'm always late or why I don't show. Because I'm off saving lives or stopping some bad guys or... Did you hear what I just said?
Ugh, I know you're a superhero. I figured it out weeks ago. We're fighting because you lied to me. You made me feel stupid and unimportant.
It's a secret identity.
And because you don't trust me.
And this level of development, it's why we all have our favorite character. Right, come on, Team Adam Eve, I want to hear you in the comment section. Why these characters are so great, it's because they all have a little character arc that has a resolution during the season. Adam Eve lives a coming-of-age story. She learns to use her incredible amount of power in a way that is healthy for her while spreading good. She's also the one person looking over Mark's head and being happy for him even though it has a bittersweet taste. Rexplode goes from a womanizing jerk to being hit in the face with the ugly truth that he has hurt someone he loves. Meanwhile, he also learns humility, and we see in his characterization that he is far more sensitive and vulnerable than what he gives off. Cecil retroactively acts as a mentor for Mark, reminding him that being a superhero isn't convenient.
Well, then the whole concept of personal privacy or me time, that's out the window. When the world needs you, you answer your goddamn phone.
Who embodies the part of the one who does what needs to be done for the greater good, even if it means being morally ambiguous. Even lesser characters like Duplicate hint as a smaller character arc about identity and being true to yourself as a person.
They're not even the real Kate!
We're all the real Kate.
The aesthetic. At first I wanted to call it a separate section for the animation, the artwork, the colors, etc. And I realized that if everything looks great, why not merge these categories into one super category? Every cinematographer or cinephile knows it, but when exposed to visuals, there are two questions that always comes back. What am I seeing? What am I exposed to in terms of pure visual? How do I process what my eyes perceive? The second question, a bit more important and a bit more complicated, why am I seeing it? What is the message that the author is trying to share with me, and what techniques are used to do so? For example, a sequence that is visually stunning is the end of that episode where Nolan is trapped in an alternate dimension and he wipes out an entire race of aliens before returning to Earth. Look at how the camera expresses the power of Omni-Man over an entire planet, how the color tones of black and red expose Nolan as this dark overlord ready to slaughter those who oppose him. Plus a view seeing this explosion, perfect use of colors, movement and blending. The general landscape of the show are very well designed in the entire series, I think notably about the clouds, which always appear aesthetically pleasing. Most show would have been okay with less texture, but you can always appreciate someone running the extra mile. The animation in itself, sometimes it's a bit sloppy, but they had the wisdom to select a few sequences they wanted to be very well animated, so they put their time, money and effort on them, and it shows. All visual elements that merge together to build an incredible world. Speaking of which, the world building. If I tell you, fictional universe where there is crazy magic, almost infinite possibilities, and where space feels as accessible as your own backyards, there is a great chance you will answer Star Wars. Although, if you were thinking about Marvel, DC Comics, Dragon Ball, or even Voltron, the answer would still be valid. But each license has specific elements to it. When we talk about the Force, the Jedi Order, the Sith, these are Star Wars specific elements. Why? Because they were developed in this universe for this universe, in optic of building a world around them. This is what is called world building. All the elements that makes your world evolve around, before, and after your story. It is established that the world building or the lore should not take much more importance than your main story. It is far more efficient to evoke some legends and some world building than to shove it in your audience's faces. If the second Hank got out of the iceberg, he said, "Hey, did I ever told you about this old air nomad legend about the guy who invented airbending suited underwear?" Boom, you just ruined Avatar: The Last Airbender. Case in point, fictions like Game of Thrones or The Lord of the Rings have very complete lore, which are all very interesting. But these background elements never take much more screen time. Why? Because they are accessible if you want to get into it, but not there if you want to ignore them and just focus on the story. In the case of Invincible, I am glad to say they found a balance. We are giving a clear background on the nature of planet Voltron, but said background doesn't come to play until it is relevant to the story. Meanwhile, characters like Monster Girl or Battle Beast hint at the existence of magic. But never does this lore get in the way of Mark's journey. Why? Because that's simply not what the writers wanted to tell as a story. And that's for the more creative part of the world building, the real world building, if I may phrase it like that, which is supposed to be the reflection of our own reality. Yeah, it's perfectly done. Invincible is one of the few superhero shows that takes the time to show the story from a civilian perspective, the ugly truth beneath a superheroic world and what it means. We see how truly powerless a normal civilian is in these type of worlds, but also how a powered being must find a way to balance the superhero life and the normal life. In addition to that, the show allows itself to be very graphic and gruesome while depicting the damage done by superheroic activities and their repercussion on our society. It dares to make the thesis that living in a world full of superheroes, yeah, pretty neat and exciting, but living in a world that needs superhero, it's closer to hell on earth than an actual utopia. And nothing illustrates this idea better than the main villain of the show and arguably its greatest strength, Omni-Man. In my Omni-Man fusion with Iron Man video, I said it. Evil Superman are becoming a trope, borderlining on the cliché territory. This comes from the fact that Superman is probably regarded as the most powerful superhero of all time, so turning him evil, it's perfect to implement the aspect of fear in your fiction. In this optic, we often compare Omni-Man to Homelander from the series The Boys. Oddly enough, produced by Amazon Prime too. In reality, Omni-Man and Homelander are not that much alike. Yes, they're both regarded as the Superman of their respective universes, posing as the great and good protector of the earth, while in reality they are evil, manipulating, power-drunk beings. But the fact is, that's where the resemblance stops. Where Homelander is a powerful man-child who puts himself above others and lets his judgment be guided by impulse and emotion, killing people by pure superiority complex and cruelty, Omni-Man is a soldier on a mission to make sure everyone knows Voltron is the greatest planet in the universe and swipes away all his enemies or other people he deems too weak to be worthy of living under his regime. Meanwhile, there is a conflict within Nolan, a spark of good ignited by his Earthling family, while Homelander, he's pure evil. And obviously, this is the part where I compare Nolan to Superman. He's based off the character. Nolan Greyson is a twisted version of Clark Kent. Clark, born Kal-El on the planet Krypton, is a Kryptonian that came to Earth after the destruction of his planet and became super powerful due to the yellow sun radiation. It is thanks to, among other things, the teaching of his father Jonathan Kent that he will develop a human heart and soul. His human empathy will push him to always be on the guard of every sneeze, yawn, or involuntary action from his that might cause the life of someone near him.
I feel have here is a rare opportunity for me to cut loose and show you just how powerful I really am.
Nolan, he was born and raised on Viltrum as a soldier and sent to Earth on a mission. He was sent to Earth to do propaganda about its totalitarian regime. He uses his alien teaching and heritage to sort of drown the few humanity Debbie and Mark have implemented in him by being a loving family. Something that he will try to implement in his own son's head.
So be it. It's right to pity them, Mark. Wrong to value them over your own kind. Look what they need to mimic a fraction of our power. You want to die for this planet? Fine! What's 17 more years?
Telling him that helping people with their personal problems, that's beneath him. And trying to make him accept the fact that he is powerful and because of that, he has the right of life and death on pretty much everyone on the galaxy. Because that's just how superior he is to every other species. Here we have a classic overlord thesis, the art of relying on military strength and pure power to justify their tyranny. And the first episode does a wonderful job at foreshadowing these themes. It opens on an attack of the Muller twin, attack that will be diffused by the Guardian of the Globe, this world's answer to the Avengers or the Justice League. Only Nolan, even though he is the Superman of this world, he doesn't join in until the last second. The heroes don't seem happy to see him, and we are explicitly told that he refuses to work with this team. Then when it comes to Viltrum itself in later episodes, we learn that it is a planet governed by power and fear, turning its powerful inhabitants into merciless soldiers. I've seen this comparison made by a lot of fans that the Viltrumites are this world's answer to the Saiyan from the Dragon Ball universe due to their obsession with power. But I don't want to develop too much because I am not a fan of Dragon Ball, I haven't watched the anime or read the manga. I should get on that though. And if you're a Dragon Ball fan, be sure to develop in the comment section, this really piques my curiosity. But in the beginning of the show, we have a flashback of Nolan explaining to a young kid, Mark, what Viltrum is. Unfortunately, he twists the truth saying that Viltrum is extremely advanced technologically speaking and that they help guide the development of other less developed planets. And even though he's lying, we can already see how twisted the truth is. The condescendency of Nolan regarding the planet Viltrum. The idea of the Viltrumite that every other species in the galaxy is primitive compared to them. Who are these Viltrumites to invite themselves from their own on unknown planet and tell them they're gonna be their guides? They're basically proclaiming themselves as God or Messiah. Nolan is so arrogant regarding his mission that with this obvious lie, we understand what Viltrum is. A planet that forms soldiers and brainwashes them into thinking and spreading the word that Viltrum is the greatest power in the known universe. And this episode lays the clues left and right about Omni-Man. Until you see the end credit and you realize there are 7 minutes left to the episode. So there must be an after credit scene. And when you get to it, we enter the Guardians of the Globe's headquarters and Nolan slaughters them. We don't know why, but we keep watching until the end and we become fascinated by this evil character we thought to be good. In conclusion, I'd say Invicible is a very smart and fresh take on the superhero genre. Most importantly, it's an animation product for grown-ups that has something to say and is not ashamed to say it. Obviously, there are similar shows in the animation department with heavy themes and messages like Harley Quinn or Rick and Morty, but these shows, they feel the need to hide these messages beneath some humor, selling themselves as comedies to have an excuse for the message to flow easily. I have nothing against this practice, but forced to recognize that the opposite is refreshing sometimes. I guess in this department there is Young Justice that is trying to, but wait for it. Seriously, think about it. It's hard to find a Western animation product that is targeted at grown-ups that is not a comedy. And in a world dominated by the formula of Family Guy and South Park, you have Invincible that swipes in and takes all the potential market. If you haven't watched this amazing show, I can only recommend you to do so. I know personally that I will be reading the comics and I will be on the front line when season 2 hits. But what about you guys? What do you think about Invincible? Be sure to mention it in the comment section down below. While you're there, why not subscribe and activate the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes up. Then share this video with all your Invincible fan friends, and as always, thanks for watching.